Okay, so let's go through our problems about solving inequalities that are multi-step inequalities. So for this first one, I'm just going to rewrite it down here. -7 is less than n minus 5 minus 3n. Okay, well the first thing I have to do is I have to combine my terms. Right here I've got an n, and right here I've got a -3n. So when I put those together, on the left side, that's just going to stay the same as -7 less than n minus 3n is -2n, and then it's still minus 5. Now I want to isolate my n. So to do that, I'm going to add 5. That will cancel this. But I can't add 5 to just one side. I have to add it to both sides. So when I do, again, this cancels. And on this side, I have -2 is less than -2n. So I want to isolate my n, and I have -2 times that. So the opposite of times -2 is to divide by -2. And if I do that to one side, I have to do it to the other side. So on the left, -2 divided by -2 is just 1. And on the right, the -2's cancel, so I'm left with just n. Now I had the less than sign here. And because we divided by a negative, I flip that around. So the less than sign becomes a greater than sign. 1 is greater than n. Or I could reverse this around and say n is less than 1. So the way I would solve this is I'm going to make this an open number here because n is not equal to 1. It's just less than 1. So 1 doesn't count as a solution. And n is less than 1, so it's all the numbers this way. Let's take a look at number 2. K minus 3k is greater than 4. So once again, I have to combine my terms. I've got a k and a -3k. So when I put those together, k minus 3k is -2k. And that's going to be greater than 4. And I want to isolate my k. So to do that, I'm going to divide by -2. And of course, if I do that to one side, I have to do it to both sides. The -2's cancel. And on the left, I'm left with just k. And on the right, 4 divided by 2 would be 2. And a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So I have k and -2. And because I divided by a negative, I flip the sign. So the greater than sign becomes a less than sign. So k is less than -2. Not less than or equal to -2, so the -2 has an open place on it because -2 is not a solution. And k is all the numbers that are less than that going this way. On with our problems. Problem number 3 is, let me rewrite it down here. 52 is less than or equal to 4 times the quantity -3k plus 4. Alright, so the first thing I can do is if I divide this whole side by 4, then these 4's cancel. It's going to make my life a lot easier. I won't have to distribute and make my numbers really big. But of course, if I divide the right side by 4, I have to divide the left side by 4. And 52 divided by 4 is 13. So 13 is less than or equal to, then what's in the parentheses here, -3k plus 4. So I want to isolate my k. And so to do that, I'm going to subtract 4, so these cancel. But of course, I can't do that to just one side. I have to do it to both sides. So when I do, 13 minus 4 is 9. And so 9 is less than or equal to -3k. I want to isolate my k. So the opposite of times 3k is to divide by -3. And if I divide the right side by -3, of course I have to divide the left side by -3. So on my right side, that cancels. I'm left with just k. And on the left side, I have 9 divided by 3, which is 3. And a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And because I divide by a negative, I'm going to flip this sign. So less than or equal to becomes greater than or equal to. So negative 3 is greater than or equal to k, or if I flip this whole thing around, k is less than or equal to negative 3. So negative 3 is my key number. I'm going to use that as my key number. Okay, k is equal to negative or less than or equal to negative 3. So negative 3 actually is a solution. I'm going to fill that in. And k is less than or equal to. So it's all the numbers this way. Question number 4, let's rewrite it. 4 times 1 minus 4x is greater than or equal to 52. So once again, if I divide this whole side by 4, these 4's cancel, so I don't have to distribute, makes my life easier. But if I divide the right side by 4, I of course have to divide the left side by 4 as well. So on the left, I'm going to have 1 minus 4x. And on the right, that's going to be greater than or equal. So on the right, I'm going to have 13. And because I divide by a positive 4, nothing changes. It still becomes greater than or equal to. Now I want to isolate my negative 4x. And so to do that, I'm going to subtract 1. So these cancel. But so if I do that on the left, I have to do the same thing on the right for balance. Do the same thing to both sides. So those 1's cancel. On the left, I have negative 4x is greater than or equal to 13 minus 1 is 12. Notice I didn't change my sign. You're allowed to subtract. You can add or subtract negative numbers. It's only multiplying or dividing negative numbers that makes you flip the sign. And now I want to isolate my x, so I'm going to divide by negative 4. And if I do that to the left side, of course, I have to do it to the right side. And so these cancel. So on the left, I just have x. And on the right, I have 12 divided by 4 is 3. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. And since I divided by negative 4, I need to flip this sign. So I'm going to flip this sign this way. And so our key number is negative 3. X is less than or equal to negative 3. So negative 3 is a solution. I'm going to fill that in. And x is all the numbers, or the solution is all the numbers less than that, so it goes that way. Okay, continuing on, I'm just going to rewrite this down here. 2 times n minus 2 plus 1 is greater than negative n plus 6, 1 plus 2n. All right. In the last couple times when we've had numbers multiplying, but we didn't actually have to distribute because we could just divide the whole thing. But on the left side, you'll see we have this plus 1 out here, so I can't divide by 2. And on the right side, we have this thing here, so I can't divide by 6 or whatever. So I'm just going to have to distribute and just distribute this whole thing out. So 2 times n is 2n. 2 times negative 2 is minus 4. And then I'm going to say plus 1. And that whole thing is greater than negative n. Now I can distribute. 6 times 1 is just 6. And 6 times 2n is 12n. Now I can combine my terms. Over here I've got a negative 4 and a 1, so I can combine those. And on the right side I have a negative n and a 12n, so I can combine those. So on the left side, 2n, and then negative 4 plus 1 is just negative 3, greater than negative n plus 12n, that would just be 11n. And then I have a plus 6. All right, so if I were to now I want to get my numbers on one side and my letters on another. So I'm going to get my letters over on the right side. Actually, I want to get my letters on the left side, so that'll be easier. So I'll just subtract 11n, and of course I do that to one side. I do it to both sides. The 11n's cancel. 2n minus 11n is minus 9n. Negative 9n minus 3 is greater than 6. So now that I have my variable, my letters on the left side, I want my numbers on the right side, so I want to get rid of this plus 3. The opposite of, I'm sorry, minus 3. The opposite of minus 3 is plus 3. So if I add 3 to both sides, those cancel, and I'm left with negative 9n is greater than 9. I want to isolate my n, so the opposite of times negative 9n is divide by negative 9. So these cancel. On the left-hand side, I have n. On the right-hand side, I have 9 divided by 9, which is just 1. I have a positive divided by a negative, so that makes it negative. And because I divided by a negative, my sign flips from a greater than to a less than sign. So n is less than negative 1. So I come up here and I find negative 1, that's my key number. It's less than, it's not equal to, so it's going to stay open, and it's all the numbers less than that this way. All right, let's take a look at number 6. 4 times negative 4k plus 2 is less than negative 8 times negative 8k minus 1. This entire piece is multiplied by 4, and this entire piece is multiplied by negative 8. So if I divide the entire side by 4, and I do it to both sides, it's going to make my numbers a lot easier to deal with. So if I cancel these, now on the left I just have negative 4k plus 2, and on the right, negative 8 divided by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. And it's still multiplied by negative 8k minus 1, and it's greater than that. Now I have to distribute, so negative 4k plus 2 is less than, distribute, negative 2 times negative 8. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 8 is 16. So 16k, and negative time, now I have to take the negative 2 times the negative 1. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 1 is 2. Alright, so now I want my letters on one side and my numbers on another. So if I subtract 16k from this side, I'm going to get my k's over on the left. So subtract 16k here for balance. These cancel. And on the left side, negative 4k minus 16k would be negative 20k. Plus 2 is less than 2. So now if I subtract 2 from both sides, the 2's cancel. Negative 20k is less than 2 minus 2 is 0. Now if I just divide by negative 20 on both sides, on this side, negative 20's cancel, so I'm left with just k. On the right side, 0 divided by negative 20 is just 0. And if I divide by a negative, I have to flip the sign. So the less than sign becomes a greater than sign. So k is all the numbers greater than 0. So 0 is my key number. It's not equal to 0. It's greater than 0. It's not greater than or equal to, so that stays open. And I want all the ones bigger than that, so they go here. All right, let's take a look at our final two problems here. We have 8 times the quantity x minus 1 minus 3x plus 7. And that's going to be less than negative 2x minus the quantity 1 minus 7x. All right, so the first thing I have to do is distribute, because I can't divide by the whole thing. I have these extra pieces and this extra piece, so I can't divide by something. So I'm going to distribute. 8 times x is 8x. 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. And that's going to be minus 3x plus 7. And that whole thing is going to be less than negative 2x. And I have to distribute this negative. It's negative the whole thing. So the negative times 1 is going to be negative 1. And then a negative times a negative 7, a negative times a negative is a positive plus 7x. So now I can combine my terms. I have a negative 8 here and a 7. Those can combine. And I also have some x's that can combine. I've got an 8x and a negative 3x and a negative 2x and a 7x. So I can combine all these terms. 8x minus 3x is just 5x. And negative 8 plus 7 is minus 1. And that's going to be less than negative 2x plus 7x is going to be 5x. And I just still have the minus 1. Well, this looks odd. Negative 5x minus 1 is less than 5x minus 1. We have 5x minus 1 on both sides. Okay, so maybe you could solve it here, but let's just keep going to find out. Let's just solve for x. If I add 1 to both sides, those cancel, and I have 5x is less than 5x. If I divide by 5, I have x is less than x. So when is x less than x? And the answer is never. There is no solution. So the answer to this one is actually no solution. If it just so happened up here, if this happened to be less than or equal to, so down here it was x is less than or equal to, then the answer would have been all real numbers because it would have worked for anything. Right? Any number is less than or equal to itself because it's equal to itself. But because this is wrong, or that's not there, we get rid of that, then no, the answer is simply no solution. All right, let's try our final one, number 8. So that would be, I'm going to rewrite it here, negative 3a minus 2 times the quantity a plus 8 is less than 5a plus 2 times the quantity 2a plus 6. Okay, so I have negative 3a, and I have to distribute my negative 2. So negative 2 times a is minus 2a. Negative 2 times 8 is a negative. Negative times a positive is a negative. And negative 2 times 8 is 16. And that's less than 5a. And now I have to distribute my 2. 2 times 2a would be 4a, so plus 4a. And 2 times 6 would be 12. So now once again I have to combine my terms. I've got negative 3a here and a negative 2a here. I can combine those. And I've got a 5a and a 4a. I can combine those. So negative 3a minus 2a would be negative 5a minus 16. And that's going to be less than 5a plus 4a is, of course, just 9a. And that would be plus 12. So I want my a's on one side and my numbers on another, so I'm going to get my a's over here. And so to do that, I'm going to subtract 9a, so that cancels here. And of course, if I subtract 9a from one side, I have to do it from both sides. So when I do that, negative 5a minus 9a is negative 14a minus 16. So minus 16 is less than, those cancel, 12. Whoops. Now I have my letters, my variables on the left, so I want my numbers on the right, so I want to get rid of this minus 16, and the opposite of minus 16 is plus 16. And so if I do plus 16 to one side, of course I have to do it to both sides. So that cancels, and I'm left with negative 14a is less than 12 plus 16 would be 28. And so if I divide by negative 14 on the left, I have to do the same thing on the right. These cancel, so on the left I have a. On the right, 28 divided by 14 is just 2. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. And since I divided by a negative, I have to flip the sign. So the less than sign becomes a greater than sign. So a is greater than -2. So -2 is my key number here. I leave it open because it's not equal to -2. -2 is not a solution. And a is all the numbers that are greater than -2. So I go this way. It's all the numbers that are bigger than -2.